True grit. Hello, welcome to Get Gardening. I'm Thordis.
And I'm Ian Roof.
We've come to essentially a stock greenhouse at East Truston Old Vicarage. It is huge, but we're not really allowed to show you all of it because you consider it to be too messy.
Well, there are a few weeds here and there, but we're really in here to talk about compost, aren't we? That's the main thing.
Yeah, the main thing, because I had a bit of a revelation the other day about compost, which is, you know, most of us, you buy a compost bag and you feel like it's got everything in it. And most of us don't really know what's going on. John Innes this. You know, you just go to the garden centre, you buy a bag of something. But actually creating the right potting mix for the plant you're putting in a pot or whatever is more than just throwing soil out of a compost bag and into a pot.
It is, and it's something which you will develop the more and more you garden. And it is very easy to just go to the garden centre and buy a bag of, say, multi-purpose compost, for example. But it's knowing what's in that compost and how it will affect the plants you're going to grow in it. So what I've done here is I've got 3 sort of basic constituents, ingredients that you will need to make your perfect potting mix. And you can adapt and use these in different quantities to cater for different plants. So in this first pot, I've got what you would use to be just a multi-purpose compost. So we use a commercial grade here, but this is something which can be peat-based or peat-free, depending on what you prefer to use. It's obviously, main constituent is organic matter. It's got some slow-release fertiliser in it as well, enough in here for about 6 weeks. So that's something which will release small amounts of feed as and when the plants need it. Now, it's very good because it's light. It retains moisture, it retains nutrients, but it's not to every single plant's liking. It's fine if you're going to put something in here, it's going to be in here, say, for those 6 weeks it's got feed in it. But longer than that, what's it really going to do for the plant? Well, long term, it's going to probably sort of rot down a bit because it's organic, so it's going to lose some of its structure. It's going to retain the moisture, but at the same time, if we get really, really hot weather, it's going to dry out very quickly as well. So you can alter that by adding something such as John Innes, which is in here. And John Innes compost is a old recipe, very old recipe, and it's a mix of 777 in John Innes, so it's not just loam, it's 7 loam, which is the soil bit, it will be 7 sand, and it will also be 7 of organic matter as well. Okay, so that's what's mixed in here, but it's really very good. It's much heavier than this multi-purpose compost. It retains moisture better, it retains nutrients better. So that can be added as well.
It looks completely different.
Completely different. But it's very good stuff. And then thirdly, we have grit. And grit is very, very good because it puts air into the mix. It also helps add weight, which is really important if you've got things in containers. It stops them falling over. But also it helps with drainage as well. So it does all these things. So if I was wanting just to grow, say for example, do a large container for the summer to have some interesting plants in, like pelargoniums or something, then what I would do, and this is what other gardening friends of ours do, is that I would get a good multi-purpose compost, and I would get some John Innes number 3, and I would get some potting grit, and I would mix them in equal parts. Now those parts can be anything. Yeah, those parts can be whatever size you want, depending on the size of the pot you're filling or how many pots you want to do. So I've just gone for a 2 litre pot here, and they will mix up beautifully together to give you a mix which retains moisture, which has got a bit of weight in it, and which will keep your plants much, much happier right the way through the season. Now if I was growing something such as, I wanted to get away with some large pots of rosemary or lavender or something more Mediterranean, then what I would probably do is I'd probably do 1 part of John Innes, and then I would probably leave this out, which is the multi-purpose, and I would then make it up with 2 parts of grit.
A lot of grit.
A lot of grit, because those Mediterranean plants are wonderful, and they do want moisture, but they don't want it sitting around the roots. Okay, so that means that having this sharp potting grit in, that the water's going to be held by this John Innes, but it's going to drain away very, very freely as well. It's not going to sit about the roots, okay? If I was, say, for example, growing something which wanted better moisture retention, maybe something like say for example, Lobelia cardinalis, which is almost like a sort of boggish type plant, but it looks really good in containers, it's a striking plant, then I would probably leave the grit out completely, and I would go for 2 parts John Innes and 1 part multi-purpose. So you're really making that compost much richer and having a much better ability to hold on to moisture.
It's a recipe. It's going to be bespoke to whatever you're planting. You just have to think about what conditions that plant wants.
Exactly, and that's a very simple way of looking at it. But I mean, if you want to just buy something like a multi-purpose off the shelf and just use that is fine. But really, you're making it hard work for yourself. Adding these other constituents to it really means you give the plants the exact root zone that they need, and they will flourish and give you good flowers, and potentially, if it's something which you're growing for its fruit, then fantastic crop late in the season.